Wake up your morning in a brand new way with the positive people, places, events, and things in and around your neighborhood and around the world. No matter where you live, your mornings are about to get better. It's the refreshing way to start your day. No doom or gloom, just bright sunshine no matter what the weather. Metro Magazine with Bonnie McDaniel. Inspiring, informative, intelligent, Ion. Positively the best way to start your morning. Good morning and welcome to Metro Magazine. I am here with two pretty cool guys this morning, and you're going to love this interview because they are actually talking about not only a big project that they're working on that's coming up in October, but I want you to listen to how they started on this journey. So please join me in welcoming Omar, Al-Chaar, and Rameen. Say the last name for me. Aminzadeh. I knew I was going to screw up. But welcome to Metro Magazine.
Thank you for having us.
You know, I was talking to you. First of all, I met you because they're, by the way, they're with, they form an organization called Beats, Rhymes, and Relief. And so there are three of you.
Yes.
One of the members is actually traveling.
She's in Kenya.
Who knows
right
where?
now.
She's in Kenya right now. I saw a Facebook page from Hazami, and she was riding in a Jeep, and she's looking out the window, and there's this big lion there. Mm-hmm. So
she got out the car.
Yeah. She has no fear.
That sounds like Hazami.
Right.
That sounds like. So tell me, how did you guys meet? And give me a little bit of background.
Sure.
Gotcha.
Go
Well,
ahead.
at the time, we both have production backgrounds, so we were working in film and television. At one point, we were doing a show about 3D jellyfish, and we happened to meet up in post-production.
Okay.
And,
now, is this like an animation,
this
or
was-
you're actually
no,
talking
this
about?
was for, I believe, Discovery or National Geographic,
Okay.
and it was documenting
3D jellyfish.
huge. It was a 3D show about killer jellyfish all
Okay.
over Japan, all over the world.
Okay.
Actually.
Okay.
And so, you know, we began to conversate and had quite a few things in common. And then throughout a couple-year process, we ended up working together consistently.
Okay.
So we built a really tight friendship. And then Omar came to me a couple years down the road after we had, you know, built something strong and had an idea.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, just to follow up on what he was saying, you know, we were working at the same production company at the time in Silver Spring, Maryland, and the crisis in Syria was about a year in at that point.
Yes.
And I felt like it's kind of, as a Syrian American, you know, I was born and raised in the States. My family is Syrian, and I grew up going to Syria every summer, so I have a very close connection. I felt like I needed to do something. You know, there's a lot of people dying, suffering, and I really wanted to do something the way I knew how. I've never worked at a nonprofit before. I've never, you know, done a fundraiser for a cause, but so I decided I wanted to do a celebrity benefit concert. I thought that Syria needed a celebrity benefit concert.
That's
Never
right.
doing a benefit concert before, I said, you know, this is what this needs. These people need this. Knowing that Rameen has a background in working with celebrities, and he's done a lot of music videos for some big names back in the day, when I went to him with this project, he didn't even hesitate. He was like, yes, let's do it. He was like, I was looking for something kind of to fulfill that side of me, and
you're also Syrian?
No, I'm actually Iranian.
Iranian?
Iranian
Oh, okay,
American.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So we kind of have that region covered between
Yeah,
the
you
three
do,
of us.
you do. And you know, the interesting thing is, and one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, there were several reasons, but one in particular is that war is such a terrible thing.
It's awful.
And what people tend to forget, because you have warring factions, you have this side against that side, and they forget about the people who get up every day and try to go to work, try to raise their kids, and they forget about the children and the impact it has on them. They didn't ask for the war, but they are certainly the collateral damage, if you will, of what happens when people go to war.
Yeah.
Now, talk to me about Hazami. How did you meet her? And I laugh when I say her name because this woman is just
Amazing.
She's bigger than life.
Absolutely.
Bigger than life.
Well, when we decided to do something for Syria. Rameen said, why don't we do this for more than just Syria? You know, we have the skill set, we have the network. Let's work on more than just one cause. Let's start a nonprofit. So we decided to start Beats, Rhymes, and Relief. And being two people that have never started or worked at a nonprofit before, we needed somebody that knew what they were doing.
So Hazami.
So Hazami was the perfect fit for that. We messaged her online on Facebook.
I remember, yeah.
And we met with her at the National Press Club in DC, and we had an hour and a half long conversation and just talked about everything, what we wanted to do, our ideas, what needed to happen, and she was very honest, straightforward with the work that it took to do it. And long story short, we decided to go with it, and she helped us set up our 501c3. I mean, frankly, if it wasn't for her, we'd probably still be filling out that paperwork.
The paperwork was long.
It was a
Yeah,
lot
it
of
is. A
paperwork.
lot of people don't realize it's a
Right.
very arduous process to go through. And so tell me the name. What's the origin of that? I know Beats has to do with hip hop, I guess.
Yes. So there was a Tribe Called Quest album that came out in the 90s called Beats, Rhymes, and Life. And it's one of the more conscious records that we grew up with, something that definitely inspired us. And as we were going through trying to pick names, you know, it's just something that kept coming back to us. And we're like, you know, we're dealing with humanitarian relief, and it's not just on a war scenario. We need relief in our own neighborhoods, in our own communities. You know, from hyper local to super global, people need you know, the inspiration and the aid and the platform to build. So we just thought it was a perfect fit. It's something that every, you know, hip hop music lover would recognize and relate to.
And even people that aren't necessarily involved or huge fans of hip hop music or the hip hop culture, I mean, which is also something that we can get into. Because
And I want to talk to you about
yeah.
that, because I know that you are really trying to bring a positive message to that space, and that's real important. I want our viewers to, want us to talk about that in a little bit. But I'm sorry I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Sure. You know, when we were coming, we thought of everything. When it came to the names, music for relief, music for life. We kind of went through a million different variations, and Beats, Rhymes, and Relief was one of the first few things you said, and we just came back to it. Like nothing kind of flew.
Didn't roll
off the tongue.
so easy.
Yeah,
Right, right.
This one did, and it's something that, you know, kind of encaptures people. It's probably the wrong word, encapture, but regardless, it pulls them in when they hear it. They like it. Sounds good to the ear. You know?
Yeah.
Now, when did you form this nonprofit?
So we submitted our paperwork in June of 2013.
So you're very new organization.
And it took us 3 or 4 months to. We were still. I mean, by the time when we started our paperwork, we were already started doing the work. When we submitted the paperwork, then we were 501c3 pending, because you have to wait for them to give you your approval. Then in September, we got our approval, which everybody was surprised, because IRS is backed up right now. It's been taking a lot of nonprofits that have started in the last couple of years have been just on a waiting list. But thanks to Hazami, which
proper guidance.
proper guidance. And she brought
You don't say no to Hazami.
I know. She had this amazing lawyer that we worked with that has a great track record with these types of things. And you know, we got the paperwork in quickly, and everything was correct, so it came in right away.
And you know, the other thing I have learned in my experience is that when you are trying to do good and you're in the right space, things just really seem to fall into place, because you're on the right path. That's kind of an indicator to you, to let you know that, hey, I'm walking in the right direction. That's been my experience. Now, I'm sure that our viewers are very curious about how two Arab men,
Middle
Eastern, men who have immersed themselves into the hip hop culture, and what the connection is there. I want you to talk about that, because we were speaking about that off camera, and what you're doing to make sure that you bring a positive message to that space. And I want you to think about that for a second. We're going to go to a quick break, and we'll be right back with more Metro Magazine. And if you're just joining us, we're here with Omar and Rameen. I'm not going to say their last names. from Beats, Rhymes, and Relief, and they're talking to us about a number of things having to do with the effort that you're putting forth through your nonprofit. And when we went to break, we were talking about the fact that you're two gentlemen who have decided that you want to take this path. So
yeah, I mean, when we were saying earlier, when your heart's in the right place, things just kind of fall into place. And we're two guys that were in the production industry. We're successful at what we're doing, living a comfortable life. But something was missing kind of internally. You know, we felt like we can do more to give back to the community and the community as a whole, the world, not just Middle East or not just any specific cause, but right at home in our backyard as well. Because, you know, yes, we're Middle Eastern men, but we were born and raised in the United States. We're as American as it gets. I was born in Athens, Alabama, and I was raised in Champaign, Illinois. And I went to...
You know what, this is now, you got to stop for a second, because Azami, when I first met her, excuse me for interrupting you, I meet this woman, she's Syrian and Palestinian. And I meet her, and I said, so, because I'm thinking, you know, she's a transplanter. She goes, oh, I lived in Mississippi. And I'm thinking, what was that like?
Right.
Because, I mean, you just...
And when you talk to her long enough, you'll see that little Mississippi twang come out
that
here.
drawl will come out real quick.
So you're Alabama, she's Mississippi. Okay, what Southern town did you have?
I was born in Washington, D.C.
Okay,
Right
so
here.
you're Washingtonian.
Yes.
Oh
City
my
man.
gosh. Yeah. But
Right.
people don't consider Washington to be in the South. They're like, you know.
This is a melting pot of all cultures.
It
so,
sure is.
yeah.
It sure is.
Especially
So,
now.
but anyway.
Yeah, so what I was saying is, you know, you don't start a nonprofit, you know, we didn't start a nonprofit at least to look cool or to make
But you
money.
are cool. It's okay.
Well, you know, we'll accept that. We'll be
Might
cool.
but we're not glorifying ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know. I understand what you mean.
It's one of those things where we did it because we want to do it, and we invested a lot of our own money to do it, especially for the first year, to do it because we believed in it and we believed it was important. This is definitely something that has taken over our lives in many different ways, and it's changed our lives. We look at life. I look at life now, and I know Rameen can relate in a different way. It used to be you wake up, you work your butt off for a production company, you make films, you make TV shows, and I did it, and I loved it, and I still love it, and I still do it. But now there's a bigger cause.
And why do you think that is? Is there any moment or something that happened that caused you to say, you know what, I need to do things a little bit differently?
You know, I would say I wouldn't be in the place I am without the help, the opportunity, the doors being busted open from others. So, you know, it takes a village. It takes, you know, a community that raises you. It's not just your parents. It's the music, it's the influence, it's the arts, it's those that bring you into particular fields, careers, right? And I would say that, you know, it's one of those things that you never forget the opportunities that you're given. Even when you make a mistake, you're given the opportunity to learn from it and be better because of it. It teaches you hard work, it teaches you responsibility, accountability, and being able to actually produce a tangible product that's good, that you can be proud of. And I think with the right mentors, parents, and people in our lives that gave us those opportunities, we were able to say, that's what we're missing. You know, we've helped out a couple people in the office or whatever, but how do we take this to the use? At 15, learning how to edit, it was because of my uncle, you know, teaching me how to do this process and giving me a career path throughout life. Something that my skill set, our skill sets will continue to put bread on the table for our families, ideally for generations. We want to teach our kids these same things.
Now, let me ask you, your educational background, did you go to film school or?
I went to film school. I didn't have, unfortunately, my family is not in the production industry. Well, not unfortunately. My dad's a civil engineer. And I, you know, when I went, then I told him I wanted to go to film school. Actually, it's a funny story. It took me a week to tell him that I didn't want to be an engineer and I wanted to be a film producer or film director at the time.
Yeah, I know. They look at you with like.
My dad has a PhD in civil engineering. My dad came from nothing, absolutely nothing. He wasn't even U.S. poor. My dad was Syria poor, and he came here and literally, you know, did
I'm
everything.
sorry for laughing when you said that. I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
trying to draw
it's
this
true.
picture in my face. So in my head, rather like, okay, Syrian versus U.S. poor. So
I mean, poor. And he came here with the help of his family, kind of came together, and he came here, he made a name for himself, and he took education very seriously. And he's the reason why my whole family's here. My aunts, my uncles, my cousins. I have cousins that are very successful, and he brought him here and started a business. And that's where kind of the giving back aspect also comes from me. I have to definitely give him credit because he taught me that. But he,
you said you were going to film school.
I was a little bit terrified because, growing up, school is very important. Education is very important. Degrees, leads to success.
Very much the same with the African American.
Absolutely. And with a lot of communities, it's the same way. So I felt like a lawyer for a week, kind of building a case to tell my dad I wanted to go to film school. And I went and sat down, and I was like, Dad, I want to talk to you about school. He was like, okay. And I was like, I've been thinking about it. I really think I want to go into the film industry. And his reaction was, I can see you doing that. And I didn't hear that. I said, "No, Dad, I really want to do this. I think," he's like, "Son, I heard you. I think we should look into it. I think it would be great." So he's been supportive from the very beginning, to my surprise. I mean, I'm not surprised that he was supportive. I'm just surprised that he was so open.
He kind of put his arms around the idea.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, from the beginning.
And it's interesting because I have a daughter, and when she initially went to college, it was with the idea of her becoming a psychologist. And so that part of it was good because she got 2 years under her belt. So she understands where she eventually wound up, which was to go to art school, and which my husband's like, "I'm not paying for you to be a photographer." And she's like, "That's not what I'm doing. Photography is just one part of what I'm going to be doing." But you begin to understand that in a society, that there are many different elements that make societies work. And I think one of the messages, if I could give to parents, is to allow your children to explore those different elements that are out there, because we need the storytellers. So film is very, very important, whether it be reporting news, whether it be telling stories through movies. It's very, very important that and I'm really happy to hear that your dad embraced it, because look at what this has turned into. Because I think you're doing a great thing. Now, as far as you, how did you get into production and music videos? Because you said you did not.
Yes, no, I did not attend school. I was.
You just said you were 15, though.
Yes, I was. When growing up, I was a rebellious youth to a degree.
Oh, gosh.
You can only imagine. And so, different members of my family, my grandfather used to do productions, documentaries around, historical avenues in DC, which his son, my uncle then, got into. And so him being about 14 years older than me, by the time he got out of film school and started actually working, he realized that, one, what you learn in film school is not what you actually experience and what you need to know to have a working career. And two, he was always somewhat of a father figure. He would come around, and my father stayed in Iran. My mother was here, remarried, and they were teachers. So they had issues with not going to school and things of that nature, but he gave me, a platform and an interest to learn these things and be a part of it. And, film is something that is a passion of mine. It's something that sucks me in the sense of being able to not only tell other people's stories, but also receive them. And I think that's what makes a good filmmaker, is being able to portray those stories in a way that we can all relate.
Okay, so you have two Middle Eastern, well, actually the three of you are Hazami.
That's right.
Who's running off somewhere right now.
Saving the world somewhere else.
Exactly, that are Middle Eastern. And here you are in the United States. And you are still involved in your culture, meaning that you don't forget home. And that's, to me, that says a lot about your character, that you understand that, that's your foundation, those are your roots, even though you're here. What is the connection, do you think, between, because I know that you also have an interest in doing things and that you also do work here in the United States for people from other cultures. What is the connection, and how important if you're talking to other young Middle Eastern men or young women, is that for you as being Americans?
Well, one thing I would say is, first, we've done more work locally and in the U.S. Domestically, I'd say, than we've done anything international.
Okay, talk about some of the things you've done.
Yeah, so we have two main programs that are domestic programs that we work on that kind of built to other things. Rameen has done a great job at building actually some of those things, and one of them is a program called Making Beats Count.
Okay,
and,
I like that name.
Yes, Making Beats Count, and what that is we've gone to 5 cities so far, and we've gone to Los Angeles, we've done one in D.C., Dallas, Texas, Chicago, Illinois, and Harlem, New York. Okay. And what we do is we get local artists together, hip-hop artists together, to create an original song that's all positive messaging, which, mind you, that's what hip-hop is. Right. You know, and
I know that's the foundation.
That's the foundation.
Yes. It's been hijacked.
It's been hijacked.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's been hijacked. So, you know, we like to make a distinction between hip hop and rap, because the things that we're hearing on the radio, the things with the negative messaging, that degrades women, that glorifies negative actions, and that music that we've all heard and that a lot of us are uncomfortable with, because the kids in this society are listening to it and believing it. And we want to make sure that we make that distinction, that that's not hip-hop, because we work with the founders of hip-hop, you know, the people that actually started that culture, and they actually, you know, Africa Bambaataa, and you can speak more to this, has coined that term, and, you know, through Zulu Nation that we've partnered with on some incredible things. And it's a culture, it's a positive culture. It's a very positive culture. So we get these artists together to create an original track that's all positive messaging, and we do a community event around shooting the music video of it. So we have the music, we have the arts, we put up a big graffiti wall, graffiti mural at the location of the event that embodies the positive messaging in the city that we're in.
So it's all about bringing, you know, artist and industry to community, right? So it's about that personal engagement. It's about that inspiration, leaving an actual impact with people to want to get involved in social good projects. So many of our youth idolize these, you know, famous rappers and these famous MCs and these break dancers and these people that put these amazing, you know, murals on the wall, and the people behind the camera, the one shooting the video. You idolize it, but you never really get that chance to actually talk to them, to really build communication and you know, get a chance to learn from the experience. You see what happens on TV, you see the end result, but little did you know that there's a career path for you. There's a way to utilize this love for music, this love for dance, this love for art into an economic empowering device.
I like that. So do you normally go to the community, when you go into these communities, you go to the community leaders to help to
Absolutely.
put these events on?
Yeah, we couldn't do it. You know, we have to work with community leaders in different areas. In Chicago,
and we want to.
Yeah, we absolutely want to, and we need to. I mean, we said it earlier. I mean, it takes a village. It takes a community. That's right. If we go to a community, just Rameen and myself, you know, we can only do so much. There's people in those communities that are already doing amazing work. They just need. We go there and we put this community event together, but they're the ones that are staying. They're the ones that are making sure that the connections that we make stick, and that those people, even when we leave, you know, even though we're a phone call or an email away, but these people are their neighbors, and they can communicate.
I'm sorry. The thing that I like, something you said, that you help them to understand that there's a lot that goes on, for instance, into a production of hip-hop music. Sure. The fact that you are communicating that to young people, because not everybody's going to be in front of the mic. Right. The idea that, you know, did you know that there's a photographer who needs to take pictures, or there is a videographer, or there is a person who does the mixing, and all of the elements? I think that's very important, especially when you look at some of the communities and the young men who, you know, who idolize in most instances rappers, and don't understand that there's a whole mind, a whole business behind the music, and I really appreciate the fact that you're communicating that in your efforts. If we could just digress for a second, we're going to take a quick break and come back. I want to talk about some of the projects, one in particular that you're working on, so that our viewers can know how to be able to support what you're doing. And we're going to be right back with more Retro Magazine.
In the streets, be the change you want to see, be the change to be alive, become a legend in Chicago like my brother Buddy Guy. A revolution in the arts, it starts in the hearts, the channel to the children playing in the parks. A revolution in the arts, it starts in the hearts, the channel to the children playing in the park.
When I use my energy to radiate to the youth, the elegies, melodies, when that rings the octave of truth. I had the juice, learn the roots, not pretentious or tooth. Cool hurt, wasn't concerned with sitting in coops. Each mind that we teach, learn the ways of the loops. No jokers out of our reach, cause Batman isn't Bruce. It can take a lot of dark nights and fights what I use to do. But if anybody tell you it ain't worth it, then you've been duped. And if anybody try to dog you for it, then you've been snooped. You go wind up screaming Kali Ma like the Temple of Doom. And that's a mess to clean up for you, gonna take more than a broom. So pollinate your mental state to be
Rameen, you were
flower
just
and bloom.
talking about some of the work that you're doing in the community and the positive changes that the positive impact that you're trying to have around the country. So talk a little bit more.
So, we've definitely traveled around with Making Beats Count. We've made a lot of impressions. We've beautified a lot of neighborhoods with the artwork. We've built with a lot of kids and are, building a strong alliance of kids that want to get involved, youth that want to get involved. And I'll say youth is something from 8 to 25, 30. The young people are still looking for a path in life in some kind of, direction. We do a lot of work with Universal Zulu Nation. I'm a Zulu myself. I'm a project coordinator for community affairs out of the Bronx chapter, out of the Chosen chapter. Okay. And what we do is diverse in the sense that there is a lot of, needs in our community, right? So not only from healthy living, but juvenile justice, positive messaging in radio, as well as, just after school program and mentorship that's really needed, right? So one of the things that we just did this past weekend is we were at the Guild Conference, the Growing Up Lockdown Conference, brought to us by the New York City Justice League and The Gathering, which is Harry Belafonte's company. Basically, this was a solutions-based conference where we brought system professionals, industry leaders, community leaders, and youth to join the conversation in finding solutions for the mass incarceration of our youth and stopping the school-to-prison pipeline. Right.
How did you get involved with that, by the way?
Well, it's something that, again, I was a troubled youth, and
so you can kind of relate.
I related to some of these issues, and it's something that we see over and over again, and this relates right back to hip hop and to media. So we have an accountability as media, as radio, as television, to promote positive messaging and imagery for our black and brown, for all people, right? For all colors of people. And what we see is corporations, record labels, radio stations put out the 25 and high routine where we want you to idolize getting stoned or using drugs or treating women bad, or the only way you can succeed in life is to be out there in the street, in the gang, selling drugs, doing whatever. And this just fuels that pipeline to the prisons, which ends up really, crushing the dreams and the possibilities for our youth, right? And then by promoting all of this, you're also creating that negative image in authorities' eyes, in school teachers' eyes. So you find that there's a big disconnect in these communities, right?
And I'm telling you, there is a huge problem, especially when you talk about authority and how young people are viewing them. And my question is, because it's one thing to talk to the youth, are you also talking to the people in authority and trying to engage them? For instance, policemen.
Yes.
Definitely have.
Tell me what you're doing on that front.
Well, our Making Beats, first of all, from the very beginning, our Making Beats Count event, our second event was in Chicago, Illinois. We did it in the south side of Chicago in Inglewood, one of the worst areas. It's really bad. I mean, Chicago needs a lot of help right now.
They do.
But one of the people that we partnered with was the Chicago Police Department for this community event. And they were very happy to do so. I think when you're talking about any industry, whether it's law enforcement or anything, you have your good apples and your bad apples.
Sure.
Right.
And unfortunately right now, a lot of the bad apples are.
They're getting a lot of press.
They're getting a lot of
spotlight,
press.
right?
They're getting a lot of spotlight, and we do need to remember that there's both. But in Chicago, when we did this back to school thing, where we donated hundreds of book bags and school supplies and furniture and clothing and food to these families, the Chicago Police Department was there. They sponsored our event. They actually donated a lot of food as well. And they were there. But
on top of that, in New York, we also partnered with the NYPD for the video we did last year in New York for Making Beats Count. And at this particular conference, there were people there from systems, from probation, from school authority. And it's one of those things my mother always said, don't react, act, right? And to me, I always took that as being proactive, right? So instead of waiting for a Ferguson to happen, waiting for a Ramarley Graham, waiting for a Trayvon, there has to be a consistent approach with youth and authority to bring that negative relationship down, to understand that just because I'm wearing a hoodie doesn't make me a criminal. Exactly. Just because I'm breaking up a fight doesn't mean you need to choke me out and disrespect me. I'm actually doing your job for you at the moment, right?
And I like the idea that you're using your background, using film, using production to put those positive messages out there, because I'll tell you, it's across the board and every culture where people have these negative impressions in their heads and they react to people in negative ways. And of course, when you do that, of course, you're going to get a negative response.
Absolutely.
So I'm really glad that you're doing that. I know right now, I was reading something this morning, and I guess the announcement happened several months ago. President Obama's I'm My Brother's Keeper. Are you doing anything in that regard? Because this is really focused on African American males. Is there anything that you're doing? Are you involved in that at all?
We're not involved in that particular program. We'd love to. Please, reach out to us. No, but it comes down to mentorship and genuine engagement with these young people, and that's what we do on a daily basis.
We were doing that before My Brother's Keeper. I mean, that's a great program and it's very important. But we're doing it. We support it. We support it. I think it's a great initiative, and it's needed now more than, it was needed before, but I'm glad that it's happening now. But we've been doing it, and we have the organizations that we were working with have been doing it for up to 20 years already, and even more. Zulu Nation has been doing it.
This is the 41st anniversary of Zulu Nation this November.
Since the beginning. So, we're not a part of that initiative, but we support that initiative. We think it's important, and we never know if we get involved on that scale, but we're going to keep continuing doing.
And we'll keep encouraging others to take that time and really spend with the youth. Be a mentor. Be something that can help focus and mold a child's life into participating in this global community that we all exist in.
I think one thing that people don't they get intimidated by is the idea of making a difference. They think it's something grand that they have to do.
Right.
But really all you have to do is be there for one person. All you have to do, if you don't have time, a cup of coffee, if you just donate that $5 to a cause that you believe in, it makes a huge difference.
It sure does.
And you don't have to think of, we're doing this as a nonprofit, we're trying to help as many people as possible, but we couldn't do it without individuals that are just there to help one extra person. And that's what we try to encourage and inspire people to do as well, is that don't be intimidated to make a difference because you think that you don't have time or money to do it, or it's just too big of an issue. That the world is a really terrifying place, and a lot of bad things are happening. My one person is not going to change it, but it does.
Now, I'm excited to talk to you because you're working on a project that's near and dear to my heart, and it's your Peace and Hope project. It's an art exhibition, and then you're going to do, you guys then come in with your concert. Yeah. Let's talk about that, and let's give some background so that people, I know Hazami's not here to talk about it, but let's talk about how this came about. Give a little bit of background so people fully understand this project.
Well, one thing that you kind of hit it on the head before you even asked that question. You said you're seeing a lot of negative things on the news. So the art installation and the benefit concert is a part of a campaign called Restore Happy. And it's supporting education and psychosocial support for Syrian children. The Syrian crisis is about to hit its 4th year anniversary in March.
And it's getting worse because of what's going on right now.
Worse. It's getting worse. It's been getting worse from the very beginning. Since day one to now, every day has gotten worse. When you're talking statistics, and I hate to use just statistics, but it's important. I mean, you have over 9 million people displaced, 75% of them are women and children. You have over 200,000 people that have been killed. You know, the big organizations, even UNICEF and Mercy Corps and UNDP and just all of these huge, incredible organizations that are trying to give aid, they cannot keep up. And what people don't realize is that's the Syrian story. It's not what you're seeing on the news. It's really important. Like, you know, there's a big political battle happening right now. But the people that are getting affected are the Syrian people that don't necessarily, you know, everybody's talking ISIS, everybody's talking the regime, everybody's talking about the freedom fighters. You know, all these people, they're fighting, and it's something that's definitely worth talking about. That's an important issue that needs to be resolved. But who's talking about these 9 million people that don't have a home anymore? These people
and when you really, and I want to stay there for a second, if you imagine, you know, 500 people being displaced and all, we're talking 9 million people who don't have a place to call home.
They're either in refugee camps, they're in streets. I mean, a lot of them are in neighboring countries. And Hazami and so this is kind of when I went to Rameen about, you know, doing a benefit concert. This was, you know, almost a couple years ago now. And we decided, you know, that it's important to rebrand the narrative. You know, people need to know, when they think Syria, they need to think, oh my gosh, the kids. You know,
exactly, because that's our future.
That is our future.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and for me, when I think about the children and why I'm trying to do everything I can to support you with this effort, is if you think about the children, just like careers that people are going to choose, they're going to choose different paths. You know, I want to be an artist, I want to do this, I want to do that. When you find yourself in situations such as these Syrian children, it's a great breeding ground for things that none of us want to have to deal with. Right. All the negativity. People who want to do bad in the world, they look for people who are vulnerable. And these children are vulnerable right now. So I see, although I live here in the United States, that ocean isn't enough to separate what could happen if we don't pay attention to this. And that's why I'm involved. So, but go ahead.
Yeah, so, I mean, you know, we've been working on this for a while now, and it's been something that's been very close to us. So when we started this campaign, we decided...
Talk about the art. I want to get the background.
Well, so the art, where that came in is that we decided that we wanted to go to meet the Syrian children. Okay. But not only that, we wanted to make an impact. And we said, let's do a video. Let's show people what these kids are doing. Okay. But we didn't want to do something that was sad, that we've seen. I mean, we've seen, there's plenty of videos already done. We wouldn't be doing the kids justice if we went there and did a video that's already been done before. Right. So it was at the time where Pharrell Williams had his Happy song, and everybody was doing their own version of it. It was an incredible campaign that happened across the world. Every country had their own, but nothing was done for Syria, and definitely not the kids. So it was actually Hazami's idea that we do, we call it Restore Happy, and we focus on the kids, and we show how resilient these kids are, and how it doesn't take much to put a smile on a child's face. It really doesn't. At the end of the day, they're kids. They're not, you know, they're not sitting in a corner sad waiting for somebody to come help them. They're kids. If you give them a soccer ball, or if you give them a jump rope or a book, they're going to play like any other kid.
And you know, it's so interesting. You talk about giving the project the name of Restore Happy. I don't know. And one day I am going to get a chance to ask Pharrell if he had any idea when he did that song, the global impact it was going to have on people everywhere. I mean, I'm getting chills when when I want to be up, I put that song on.
Absolutely.
And to know that his music is impacting children
Oh, yeah.
in the most dire situations that you can imagine.
Oh, yeah.
I need to ask him the question, did you have any idea
Yeah,
that
but
was
he-
going to
I
happen?
don't think he did. And now from it, I mean, there's an International Day of Happy that him and the UN Foundation launched. I mean, you know, now
I
there's a
love
day,
it.
International Day of Happy. Excuse me, I don't remember the actual date, but it was incredible. So we went to this refugee camp. It was Hazami and I. Rameen was here holding down the fort with all the other campaigns that we talked about earlier. Hazami and I went to the refugee camp with an idea that we're gonna, you know, give everything we can. We did a little fundraiser. We took over 4,000 gifts with us for kids, which is a little, but
I remember her with the apartment with all this stuff she was collecting.
you
I'm
should
like,
have
look
seen
at
it.
her.
And we even went back. You know, when we were in Jordan with the money that we collected, we went to the wholesale markets and just bought out everything that we possibly could. Every penny that we got donated and everything that we had that we could spare, we were just like, we just have to give whatever we can. So we went with an idea that we were going to inspire these kids. And let me tell you something, we were wrong. Those kids inspired us like no other. If it wasn't, I mean, they were happy, they were excited, they loved being in front of the camera. I had 2 speakers wrapped around my neck, blaring happy, and they were naturally just singing and dancing and acting silly,
Love
clapping,
it.
and
Yeah.
so we released, you know, we while we were there, and we shot this video, and it was an incredible opportunity for us, and I think it definitely made an impact. It showed people a little bit of what's, you know, who these kids are, and I'll never forget their faces, not one of them. While we were in Jordan, we were introduced to a gentleman. His name is Nawar Bulbul. He is a Syrian actor. He was in one of the biggest soap operas in Syria. He left Syria after the conflict, and he's basically dedicated his life to the kids in that refugee camp. And he's gone as far as he's actually directed the play Shakespeare with the kids in the camp. I mean, it's amazing. He got international coverage. But we were sitting with him at his house, and he was like, you know, I have this canvas. It's 1/3 of a mile long, and over 1,000 kids in the camp painted on it. And Hazami and I were sitting there, and he's like, I don't know what to do with it. It's sitting in storage. And Hazami, without even blinking, she was like, can we have it? You know,
Gosh, I
and
love her so
I know
much. She is just, she's amazing.
and we were just like, we'll display it on the National Mall. We'll try to make, you know, we'll try to raise as much awareness as we possibly
You
can.
know what I love
with it.
about this? Because I know that you made a statement and you had no idea how this was going to come about.
No idea. We've never. I
love
mean,
it.
an art exhibit is one thing, which we
On the
can
National
handle.
Mall,
On
I
the
mean,
National
that's a
Mall
big
with
statement.
1/3 of a mile canvas, you know.
This canvas is
Who
huge.
does
It's
that?
over 300 pounds. I mean, they had to cut it up and put it in 8 boxes. Luckily, we had this company. It's Aramex. It's the biggest shipping company.
Right.
They shipped it over on their dime to Dulles Airport. We just had to go pick it up, and it was, like I said, it was in 8 boxes. We took it to Hazami's basement, where you were there. Actually, we had a hand. Yeah.
The thing that if I can interrupt you, the thing that is so powerful about this art, and I have one that's still in my car, one of the canvases that I've been riding around with. Every situation where I told people about this project, and I have taken the art out to see the emotions of the people. There's something really strange going on with this art, because I have not seen people respond. And even when we were unpacking and measuring, trying to get bring some organization to the art project, it was just the strangest kind of thing. You could feel there's something phenomenal about this art when you touch it. I've never experienced anything like that before in my life.
Well, you have over 1,000 kids that touch that canvas that are in a place where they shouldn't be at the age that they're at, particularly.
Yeah.
These are kids that can easily lose. I mean, we're losing a generation with these kids.
On October 23rd through the 27th, 2014, the original artwork of over 1,000 Syrian youth from the Zatari refugee camp in Jordan will be displayed on the iconic National Mall in Washington, D.C. Peace and Hope tells the story of Syrian children displaced by over 3 years of conflict that has left millions in need of life-saving aid. The 1/3 of a mile long canvas tells a different narrative, one of resilience, determination, of hope, and of a brighter future. We need your help to share these powerful stories against the backdrop of the U.S. Capitol and the Washington Monument. Help us show the world that now is not the time to walk away from these amazing children, but rather to invest in their future. Please support this visionary project and help restore happy. Talk about the program that's behind that for the art exhibit.
So this will run from October 23rd through the 27th on the National Mall, pretty much right in front of the Smithsonian. We will have a ribbon cutting ceremony where we're bringing together, people not only from the Middle Eastern and tied closely to the Syrian cause, but we're also about bridging gaps. And that's the beautiful thing about art and music. That's what it does. On top of the women and the nurturers of the world, it's also art and music that creates that commonality for everyone, right? You touch something that has the purest intentions behind it from these children for their dreams of hope and peace and for a better future, right? This potential lost generation poured their heart and soul in the most terrible of circumstances to express themselves. And I think intentions of regular people come into this where it's infecting. It's really addicting. It's something that when you see it, when you feel it, when you know the history behind, not only the cause, but these children and their potential future, it's something that someone said memory is the scribe of the scroll of the soul. And so what we do is try to make, using this music and art, really try to make impressions that will motivate you into becoming actors in this global community for social good, right?
So let's talk about some of the people who have gotten on board because...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let's talk
amazing group. I mean, we have our host committee, which consists of currently 4 incredible people. One you might know really well.
Yeah, I volunteer.
We have Congressman Andre Carson. We have Congressman Keith Ellison. We have Marsha Rawls, which is incredible art, a person that's just an amazing person in the art world.
Yeah, she's one of the top curators in the world. Yeah, so she really, as a matter of fact, she was one of the people that I showed this canvas to that I've been riding around with. And she was so overcome with emotion. And she goes, I got to do this. And I'm like, I know you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
And last but not least, yourself. We have you on our host committee, which we're very lucky to have. And we have support from some amazing individuals on our Young Humanitarian Host Committee. We have the UN Foundation that's been supportive. UN Habitat has been very supportive as well. Aramex, we're a part of this campaign. We're doing a Syria Plus Social Good conversation, and that component is the partners for that is incredible. I mean, you have UN Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Cisco, and all these a few others that have spearheaded this social good movement. So it's really nice to have them involved in that conversation.
And he's not expecting this, but I also want to say, because I know that it's a contribution of his time, the person who is behind the camera this morning, a gentleman by the name of Henry Patterson, who, when I told him what I wanted to do with this interview, did not hesitate. He has a Genesis Productions. Yes. So I'm real grateful. So I think the point is...
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think the point is that you have people who want to see you succeed because we understand the importance of the work that you're doing.
And it's not about us. This is bigger than...
This is not one of those ego trips you get on. This is like, these kids need our help. Yeah.
And we've been spending, when I tell you day and night, I don't care what time somebody emails me or calls me. We're working on this nonstop.
I know, because I called him. I go out for my run at 6 o'clock in the morning, and he's probably thinking, "Who is this calling?"
No, it's fine.
This hour of the morning.
And you were like, "Did I wake you up?" I'm like, "No, my allergies are so bad, like they are right now." We're up, and we've dedicated our lives to this, and we will continue to do so. Yes. And there's challenges. There are challenges, because when it comes to arts and music and the industry that we're using to make this change, it's kind of hard for people to understand the importance of supporting, because a lot of people, whenever they want to give, especially when you're talking about monetary contributions, people would say, well, why would we give $10 here
exactly, instead of
food
another
package?
place.
That's going to go directly to the kids. But what we say is, what we're doing on the National Mall, and we're going to be there for 5 days. One of the days is the Marine Corps Marathon.
I was about to say that, the fact,
Yeah.
and I think that's so poetic, because you have here, these are men and women who are soldiers, who are, a lot of them, who are running right past this art exhibit that represents what war does. I think it's just...
They know better than the next person.
Yeah,
That's right.
they sure
we definitely
do.
have a very strong appreciation for people that serve. I mean, we know that less than 1% of this country serves in the military, and the other 99%, we get the benefit.
I want to make sure that people know the program, because you have the ribbon cutting, if you will, on the 23rd.
From 5 to 7 p.m.
From 5 to 7, and I'm going to give the website now, but you can make sure you give it at the end of the program, oneworldsyria.com, and you can go there and get a complete schedule of what's going to happen on the day of the ribbon cutting and any other subsequent events that are going to go on around that. The other thing too is that I think is a very, very important point that you make. This is not political. It's not. So talk about that.
Everything we do.
Politics and religion, though we all have political views, we're all faithful people. What it tends to do especially when you get a cause based in the Middle East, based in conflict, even here, you bring politics and religion and it divides. It separates people, and what we do is leave that out so it becomes a humanitarian effort. This is people helping people. This is, bringing people from other cultures, a holistic view in age, age and gender gaps, and bringing them together in one common place for a common goal. And I think that's a big part of the organization's, ideas, is to change the narrative on social good efforts, on becoming involved. And whether it's through concerts or events or whatever, it's how do you make that easy for the end consumer to participate.
Exactly.
You can buy a bottle of this water or buy a bottle of that water, but this money goes towards a cause. There are ways for the individual to participate, in these efforts, and we're trying to create that avenue through music and arts, through concerts, through music, through content, through events. An easy way to get involved and make a difference, make an impact.
And you mentioned something about participation, because I do know that on your website, oneworldsyria.com, there is a volunteer sign up.
Yes.
And being involved in certain aspects of this, I know that volunteers are greatly needed.
Absolutely.
On many, many different levels, whether it's artists who are helping with the installation or
outreach or setup, or there's so many things, like we said.
For everybody.
Have students or children who are looking for community hours. This is a nonprofit. This is a great way for them to be involved in something that has global impact. So I encourage you again to go to oneworldsyria.com. Now, there is, on the other side of this, once the art exhibition happens, there's also your part, which is the concert. So let's talk about
Absolutely.
that.
So we've been working hard for, just over a year and trying to pull this concert together, and it has been a bit of a challenge in regards to the nature of the cause, like we said, and trying to get people on board and understand that politics and religion are out of it. But, here's an opportunity where you take celebrity music, their influence, and also creating this platform to buy a ticket as an end consumer and support a cause, and doing so while seeing great music. It gives us the opportunity to really raise the level of awareness for this potential lost generation. We're talking about 75% of 9.1 million people who are women and children, mind you. The men have been caught up in the conflict, and so these kids need this help, this boost to raise the awareness about not being lost. Help us have a future, right? And I think anytime inherently when you pull music and you pull art together, you're able to change the narrative on, I really like this guy, I listen to his music all the time, But here he's talking about Syrian children.
Yeah, yeah.
Why am I not talking about Syrian children,
Exactly.
right?
And it's just a reality that we have to, that we live in. When you have the media covering only one aspect, and it's not even the most important aspect of a conflict and a region, it becomes a responsibility of other public figures, whether they're celebrities or
Lawmakers or mentors,
whoever they
teachers.
are, to come in, step up and say, wait a minute, we're missing something.
Exactly.
And this program, I mean, we have pushed the date a couple times because we refuse to do it if it's not done properly.
Right.
Anybody can do a concert. We can do a concert, and our goal for this concert is to raise $5 million. But the $5 million doesn't mean anything if we don't change everybody's minds, and not just change everybody's minds. We're not necessarily changing what the narrative is. We're just giving the correct narrative. We're putting the correct narrative.
And I like
at the
that.
forefront.
That message has to be on point because a lot of people really don't understand the impact, of doing nothing. They don't understand the impact that it will have. Now, this is going to be sometime in January.
Sometime early next year, yes. In
Okay.
2015.
And we Constitution Hall, that was what I was going to ask you. And I know there's some work being done in the background where this is going to be a phenomenal concert. And you know what? You spoke into existence the fact that you were going to do this on the National Mall, and it happened. My feeling is that this is just the beginning. And I really believe in my heart of hearts that this is going to spawn other communities, other conflicts that might be going on. I think this is just the beginning of the impact that Beats, Rhymes, and Relief is going to make. And we are out of time. If you would look in the camera real quickly and just tell people again, I've given them the website, but anything, quick little 30-second plug that you'd like to give.
Beats, Rhymes, and Relief, www.beatsrhymesandrelief.org. YouTube, Beats, Rhymes, and Relief, Twitter and Instagram, @Rhymes for Relief. The social network engagement, keeping the dialogue, keeping the conversation going, that's what you can do. That's the easiest way to join the movement. Sign up, volunteer, give us a shout. We'd love to have you. We'd love to include you.
And if there's any questions, we are always available. You can email info@beatsrhymesandrelief.org, or if you want to volunteer, you can email art@beatsrhymesandrelief.org.
Or you can call him at 5 a.m. and I'll give you his number. But it's going to cost you a big old check. So
for the donations, well, you can call me anytime you want.
I thought I'd throw that one in. This has been so much fun, and I am just so honored to have the opportunity and to have the platform where I could support you in this effort, because I believe in my heart that it's important, and I think you're going to make a big difference.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes,
we appreciate you and everything that you're doing for the cause and for the organization, and just to make the world a better place. And that's really what our goal is. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. It's been my honor, and that's going to do it for us for this episode of Metro Magazine with Bonnie McDaniel. And I hope you guys have a good week, and I'm going to see you on the flip side.